What's going on, Archivists? It's your boy Varni, and today I've got a very special video for y'all. We're trying something new. We're going to be making a tier list for various Grand Archive subtypes, items, regalia, etc. And today I figure, why not start off with the new hottest stuff on the block, that is the Specter cards from Distorted Reflections. Let's not waste any time. We'll hop right into it. So we've got our standard tiers, S, and then A, B, C, D. S tier meaning it's the best of the best, and D tier meaning that it's probably trash. And I say probably because I could be wrong. This is not a definitive tier list by any means. These are just my thoughts on the cards. We're gonna start off with the Blighted Jewel here. That is a item on enter. It becomes ephemeral. Ephemeral, if you don't know, it means that when it would leave play, instead of going to grave, it gets immediately banished. It never hits the graveyard, which does matter for on-kill effects. It also draws a card into memory, and then each ephemeral ally you control gets +1 power as long as it entered the field this turn. I don't know, for 3 cost, an item that sits on the field and doesn't really get anything from like leaving, to me, like, this doesn't seem too good. Like, sure, cool, I can bring out something like this Lingering Banshee that's normally a 2/3, but if I bring it out and it's ephemeral, you know, it's a 3/3, but like, I don't know, they don't even like snowball like that. Incinerated Templar brings something out, but then it goes away at the end of the turn. I know with Incinerated Templar and Vengeful Paramour, you can basically do 6 damage. So yeah, sure, you can do like 7. I don't know. It probably would have been too strong if it just like buffed Specter allies. But to me, I'm gonna say it's D tier, and you guys can change my mind on any of these cards in the comments, but that's where I'm at with it. Next up, we've got Crossroads Spectre. This is the Crux Spectre. On champion hit, opponent banishes a card from their material deck, obviously they choose, and then on death, if there are 7 or more regalia among all banishments, return Spectre to the field with a buff counter, and it becomes ephemeral. So this is already a 3/3 that on death, if there's enough cards in banishment, becomes a 4/4. We already know how hard it is to deal with 4 life units, a la Ghost of Pen and Frostworn Paladin. We already know how hard units hit when they're at 4 attack, such as Crystalline Archer. So you're telling me this can return to the field and become a 4/4 on death? You're telling me that because Incinerated Templar says put target ally, I can play this off of Incinerated Templar? Listen, I'm not gonna call this S tier, but no, I'm kidding. I think this card is really good. The only problem is I think without a sort of dedicated Spectre deck currently, and I'm sure one will pop up, but without one currently, it can be tough to run this because you can't play it normally. So you always want to trash this card. This card needs to be in your trash. Otherwise, you would need to have a Crux element champion like Merlin or Lorraine to actually be able to play this out, because this card is just a dead card otherwise, which is the plus and also the downside of, you know, some of these Spectre cards. So I think it's A tier. I could be convinced that it's like top of B tier, just because of exactly what I mentioned. So I'm actually more inclined to leave it in B tier for now. I think the card is really good and has a lot of potential, but I'd have to see what these strats come out with first. Next up, we've got Evercurrent Radar. Sorry, Raider. Good lord. Okay, so this is hard. I want to say that this is like S tier, right? Because it's an archetype floating memory for a card that we'll get to later. But I think the only thing that prevents it from being S tier is that it's water element. And the only reason I say that is because it does have Ephemerate. It is a 1/2. You could play if you're playing like a water-based ally deck, well, then you're not getting access to probably one of the best cards. So I don't know. I think because it's floating memory and it's an archetype, that inherently makes it A tier. The only thing preventing it from being anything more is just the fact that you can't actually play the card. And I guess since we're talking about it, I might as well just put it up here. We already know what it is. Raeleigh Abyss is S tier. It's your creative shock. If you're a Yu-Gi-Oh player, it is your graceful charity. It's draw a card, then discard up to 2 Spectre cards. For each card discarded this way, you draw an additional card. So the card replaces itself, and then it puts 2 of your Spectres in the trash. in the grave, sorry. So you go card neutral, which is already fantastic. That's why Evercurrent, I want to say that it's really good, like S tier good, but the only thing holding it down is just the fact that you can't play it. So at times, it can be a brick in hand depending on what your strat is. Evercurrent's really good, Raeleigh Abyss is cracked. We knew that much, right? Next up, we've got this Flamebound Drog. On enter, it becomes ephemeral. So I guess the big thing with this, right, is like Blighted Jewel. Since it becomes ephemeral on enter, it stands there as a 5/1, but it's just a 5/1. And it's ephemeral. So it doesn't even do you anything because it's just gonna get banished. Sure, you can swing for 5 attack, but you know what else I can do? I don't know. I can use Incinerated Templar to play the Vengeful Paramour, and then I can Undying Dreams and put a buff counter, and I can have a 4/2. But granted, yes, Paramour would go away at the end of turn, but if I just wanted to play something out and then buff it up, like, I could play out, I don't know, what do we have here? This Lingering Banshee. Lingering Banshee I can play out for the 3 cost, and then it can be a 3/4, or if I ephemerate it or I bring it out off of Templar, then it's like a 4/5, which is a lot harder to deal with than just like 5/1. So I don't know. To me, that card is like actual trash. If I could see potential, I guess that's what it is, right? I would put Blighted Jewel into C tier because I could see potential, but Drog just seems like trash to me. Next up, what is this card here? We've got Fleeting Guard, which is, I guess, basically your sort of spell. It's your spell shield. Yeah, that's what it is. Until end of turn of target unit will be dealt damage, you prevent X of that damage, where X is the amount of ephemeral objects you control plus 1. So, how many ephemeral objects are you actually going to have on your field for this, right? I think that's the big question. Right now, it doesn't seem like a lot. You can get them out, but you know, obviously once they die, they go away, and then your opponent can just try to, I don't know, remove them otherwise outside of like combat damage or something. I guess it depends on like what the meta is. I think the card, I guess because it's an in archetype like spell shield, it can be really good, but you know, it's a card you have to be playing a Specter oriented strategy for that card to be good, and then you would need to be ephemerating stuff, and I don't know how viable that actually is. I mean, some of these ephemerate costs aren't cheap. 4 for Paramour, 6, but then it goes down to 3 for Banshee. It's actually the only, I guess there's 2 more with ephemerate, but then the only other way you ephemerate something is Incinerated Templar. And then yes, you can have something like Flamebound Drog on field. So I guess this is where that could help, right? Yeah, sure. It's like a 3, a 4, a 5/1, but if it's ephemeral, you can make it a 5/2 off of the Undying Dreams, and then this can prevent X damage, you know, 1, so you can protect it. I don't know. I see the potential with it. I think I guess because of the potential with it, more so than the Blighted Jewel, I'd put it in B tier, probably like bottom, just depending on what we get in the future. That's probably not that. Gastly Corrosion. All right, this one I'm tough on. At first, I was really high in this card, and then I was really low on this card, and now I'm still really low on this card. The one thing holding this card back is that it's slow speed. You can't activate it at fast speed, which sucks, because if you're playing it, no matter what base you're playing, the one thing that does shut this deck off is Censor. Because Censor shuts it off, Gastly Corrosion is great, right? You destroy target item with a memory cost of 0, right? But it's slow speed, which means when it goes to your turn, depending on what you might want to materialize, depending on what you might want to do, you're going to have to hard cast this. Now, the cool thing is that if you have ephemeral objects already on your field, this does reduce the cost, so it can become 2 or 3. But I don't know. I think it not being fast speed takes it down a notch. I don't know. That is probably where I'm comfortable with it at. I ended up dropping this for Reduced to Ash. I thought this card would be really good because it plays into the Specter package, so you can discard it if you don't need it off of Raeleigh Abyss. But I would rather have fast action reduced to ash than slow speed Gastly Corrosion. Next up, we've got Incinerated Templar. In my opinion, this card is also S tier. I really do think this card is fantastic, because this card is good not only now, but this card is good with whatever comes out. This is going to put target Spectre ally card with a reserve cost of 3 or less, from your grave onto the field. It becomes ephemeral and you sacrifice it at the beginning of your next end phase. This is a class bonus, so you can only do it with cleric and warrior champions. But because of everything that we have, this puts anything that we have currently onto the field. So like I said, the Crossroads Spectre, it's really good with. You can come in, smack up the champion, banish a card from their material deck. Sure, you don't get the on enter or the on death, but you hit them for 3 damage. It's hard for them to remove this depending on what cards they have in hand, because it is 3 life, which is a big plus from it being 2 life. And then it just applies pressure. You can use this to bring out Vengeful Paramour and deal 6 damage in that turn. If you wanted to, if you're like Spectre oriented, sure, I guess you could bring out the Evercurrent Radar if you have nothing else to bring out. You can use it to bring out this Shackled Thurus, which is all right. It has Taunt. You'd probably want to play this, and this is a card you'd probably want to play in like a more Umbra-oriented deck. But if it's ephemeral, it'll be a 4/2, which means if you Undying Dreams this could swing for 6 damage. So in total, Shackle Thurus and Incinerated Templar is doing 8 damage with the Undying Dreams. Of course, Blighted Jewel as well. I'm kind of talking myself up just a bit on Blighted Jewel, but I think the card is it's fantastic for what the strategy could end up being beyond just a value engine currently. So that's my opinion on that. Next up, we've got Lawzer the Carpenter, which gets +X on enter until the end of turn, where X is the amount of other Spectre allies you control. So this typically isn't something that you want to play until you have like 2 or 3 of them on board. If you have enough influence, Templar to play something out, then to drop Lawzer gives it a +2. And Spectre allies you control have stealth as long as they're awake. So, you know, if you have enough memory, you can go Incinerated Templar, play out the Vengeful. Now you're doing 6 damage there, and then you can drop Lawzer, and now you can do another 3 damage, which is 9. I think Lawzer is really good. I think he only gets better once we get more Specters, especially more ways to put them on field. Again, I love the idea of Templar, and depending on what future cards do, I think Lawzer can end up snowballing and be a really good card. Next up, Liminal Guide, obvious S tier. Is it better than Raeleigh Abyss? I guess that's the big question, right? I'll put it this way. If a card were to get hit, it would be Raeleigh Abyss over Liminal. So technically speaking, Raeleigh Abyss is a better card. Now, for what it's worth, yes, I mean, Liminal is a $50, $60 card. It's an SR, and generally speaking, most companies tend to not want to hit, you know, SRs, secrets, etc. You try to hit the engine cards, the commons, the uncommons, and the rares. So Rile would be the first one to go. And for what it's worth, there is counterplay to Liminal. Liminal is not like this be-all, end-all. It's just really, really good. Whenever your champion levels up, return it from grave to field. If you do, it becomes ephemeral. You draw a card, which means at level 1, if you're just hard leveling, it means at level 1, you get a half card advantage because he returns to the field, and you get to draw a card replacing what you banished. At level 2, it's a negative half card advantage. And at level 3, it's a negative 1.5 card advantage, compared to just losing a card entirely, and then losing 2 cards, and then losing 3 cards. That's the reason that this card is like 50, 60 bucks and it's so expensive, because this, with your in-archetype Evercurrent Radar, and then your Raeleigh Abyss, means that once you level up at level 1, you now get a free level up, and you get to draw a card off a Liminal, and it comes onto the field and represents damage. And you have an Undying Dreams that does matter, because now your Liminal that was a 1/3, if your opponent tries to swing into it and try to get rid of it, you're like, oh, you know what? Drop Undying Dreams. It's now not only a 2/4 for the turn, it's ephemeral, so it gets a buff counter, so it's a 3/5. And then it's a buff counter, right? So it stays for the rest of the game, so it's a 2/4 for the rest of the game as long as it's on the field. I literally had an opponent who was like, damn, I actually can't deal with that right now. So it's just going to represent 2 damage every turn. That's really good. You could even stack it. One turn, you can just decide to, oh, it's a 2/4 right now. You know what? I want to swing for 4 damage, you know? Liminal, obvious S tier card. Next up, we've got the Lingering Banshee we were talking about earlier. This is a warrior specter that has Ephemerate for 6, but if you control one or more ephemeral objects, it costs 3 less to activate. So Blighted Jewel, pretty good here, since it is an ephemeral object. It would only cost 3, and it comes onto the field as a 2/3, which is a pretty decent stat line, especially for being a 3 cost. I don't know where I'd want to put this out. It's a vanilla, you know, compared to like Incinerated Templar that puts something on the field and it's a 2/2. I guess the 2/3, you know, makes it better, but I don't know. In my opinion, that's like B tier, probably like bottom of A tier if I wanted to. I don't know if I'd put it more than that. This card, I mean, all the Spectre cards that become ephemeral, Undying Dreams just makes them better because that would make this card a 4/5 and then a permanent 3/4, which is good. So, you know, I don't know. I could be swayed, but it's just a vanilla, really, right? That's all it is. It's just something that you play. You're gonna go swinging. It's gonna die. You can cremate it, and then you can bring it back. And that's the other thing, right? That's why, as much as I really like Evercurrent Radar, it's water, and all the good cards that you'd want to play are in fire. Creative Shock, put Specters in trash. Especially if you play a mage-oriented list and you get to put these fire cards in trash and you deal 2 damage, and then you incinerate it into Vengeful and you deal 2 more, and then you deal 4 attack damage, and then you Rile and you do more. Like, cremation ritual on your things that are coming back, like Liminal, who comes out for free, cremate it, draw 2 more cards. You really want to play this like a fire-based deck. I'm sure there are other builds that can be played, but like fire is where the value's at, you know what I mean? So that's the thing with Lingering Banshee. It comes out as a 2/3. It's not horrible. It's like it's pretty decent, you know, vanilla unit. It doesn't have much going for it outside of that. Next up, we have got this. What is this? This is a Lawzer the Abyss, which is an action. It is reveal top 4 cards of your deck, put all Spectre cards among them into your grave, and the rest on the bottom of your deck in any order. Problem, this is a water card, right? So you need to have water enabled. Unless you're playing, I think, like the Prismatic Spirit that enables them, but then there's some downside to doing that. I don't remember what it is right now. It's a great card to search, but I'll be honest, like, it's D tier only because, like, I wouldn't want this as much as I just want to play Raeleigh Abyss. If I was choosing to play water over fire, and like, do I want to play Raeleigh Abyss or Lawzer the Abyss? I'd rather Raeleigh Abyss. And if Raeleigh Abyss gets hit, would I want to play Lawzer the Abyss? Probably not. It doesn't put cards in my trash, which I don't care for. Sorry, I say trash a lot because I play Digimon. Cards in my grave. Shackle Thurus. We were talking about this earlier. I really want to like this card because it has Taunt. The only problem is that if you use Templar to put this on the field, it doesn't do anything. It's going to go away at the end of your end phase. The best thing about this is if you use, there's a card that we got, I forget what it's called. There's a card that we just got in this new set that allows you to activate allies at fast speed. So if you can combo that with the Incinerated Templar, then you can play Templar at fast speed, use it to bring out the Shackle Thurus, and it would have Taunt, which is really good. And it goes away at the beginning of your next end phase, which means it would stay on the field until your turn, and it would be a 4/2, which is pretty decent. But honestly, this is a card to me that reads just better in an Umbra based level 3 strat, because the on death is really nice that your target opponent has to sacrifice an ally, and if they don't, then you return it to the field. It gets +2 health, so it's now a 0/4 taunt, and it becomes ephemeral. So now it's a 4/4 taunt. That's where I see the value in this, but I don't think any of the Umbra strats really want to be playing Shackle Thurus, and you probably don't want to be going all the way up to level 3 to be playing this. So as much as I really want to like this card, I think just because if you play it, it's going to get 4 power, that redeems it. And that makes it C tier for me. Probably ahead of all of these. Even ahead of, that's where I'm at so far. That's where I'm at so far. I think that's where I'd put it. Next up, we've got Spectral Diffusion. This card costs 1 less to activate for each of up to 2 ephemeral objects you control. So it goes down from being 4 to either 3 or 2. Your champion and ephemeral objects you control gain Spell Shroud until the end of turn, which can be really nice. I would say that's definitely like a B tier card, because Spell Shroud is obvious, it's Spell Shroud, right? being able to say, all right, cool, whatever you were going to activate against me, absolutely not. You want to do this basically at the beginning of your opponent's turn, ideally before they have cards in hand, so that they can't respond with something that can essentially get past your Spell Shroud. But being able to give Spell Shroud to not only your champion, but basically your entire board if you're playing a Spectre-oriented deck, I think card is really good and definitely a card with a lot of future potential. Next up, we've got the Sunken Battle Priest, which has a class bonus, Cleric and Warrior. Other ephemeral allies you control get +1 power. And then it has Ephemerate. You banish a card with floating memory from your grave. So obviously there are strats in water where you want to banish a card with floating memory from your grave for purposes. This is only coming on as a 1/3 though. And then it's giving the buff to other ephemeral allies you control, so it doesn't even get its own buff. The best thing about this is comboing it with the Blighted Jewel to say that, cool, between Blighted Jewel and Sunken Priest, I get +1. I just remember something about Blighted Jewel actually as I'm talking about it. First, let me finish Sunken Battle Priest. In my opinion, this is like, I think because of, I don't know. I don't think this card is that good. Not as a 1/3. I guess it does ping damage, and I guess you can end up making it like a 2/3. I don't know. Sometimes these are hard for me to think about because I have to think about how they are now. They might be in the future, but I actually kind of just talked up Blighted Jewel for myself. I was thinking that this wasn't going to be good, but you know what? I have changed my mind. This is actually a B tier card, and I would say that I would say this is actually a really good card because I just remembered something as I'm talking about this this Sunken Battle Priest. The one problem with Sunken Battle Priest is it only gives it to other allies. It itself is an ally, but obviously because Blighted Jewel is an item, it doesn't have to count itself. It costs 3, but it does draw a card into your memory, so it replaces itself, but you can play 4 of these, and this is like Forest Cake, but for Specters. And I love Forest Cake in Sylvie. Forest Cake only gives a buff counter to one ally, but Blighted Jewel gives a +1 to every ephemeral ally, which means if you have 2, 3, 4 of these, that's 2, 3, 4 attack. Now we're talking, now we're making things a little bit better. Now this kind of changes my mind. This Flamebound Drog that I was talking about, that I was talking crap about, I actually think that's C tier now because of that. Incinerated Templar brings out Flamebound Drog. You have 3 Blighted Jewel on the field. It goes up to being 6 attack. Who cares if it dies? Because that is 6 attack. That is 8 total between Flamebound and Incinerated. And then if you have the Undying Dreams, it comes in for 10. I did talk myself up. I still don't like Sunken Battle Priest though. I guess it's all right, but with Templar banishing it, or with Templar sacrificing it at the end of your next end phase, you really just want to either hard play her and then you can bring her back out and she can buff things up. In my opinion, I think it actually makes something like Shackle Thurus better, and as a purely offensive piece and not a defensive piece. Probably because I think because this is an Umbra card, I want to say, oh, this is tough. Because it's an Umbra card, I want to say that it's C tier, but it feels like it's like bottom of B because it gets +4 power if it's ephemeral, which means with the Blighted Jewels, 6, 7 power. It's just as heavy hitting as Flamebound. But I think if Flamebound Drog sits in C tier, I think Shackle Thurus stays in C tier. Crossroads Spectre, I think because of what it proposes to your opponent, it's either negate this battle damage or I'm doing damage, or I'm taking something from your material deck. Feels like that should also be C, but maybe just bottom of B. We'll revisit this at the end and see where we organize stuff. We got 4 cards left. Undying Dreams, that's an A tier card. It's floating memory. It plays into your strat. It's a target ally. It gets +1 power, +1 health on life until the end of turn. So you don't even have to target a Spectre. You can just buff something if you want to. But if that ally is ephemeral, then you get the buff counter. Fast speed floating memory. I mean, do I need to say more? Obviously, this is better than Evercurrent Radar, and it should be better than Lawzer. It's fast speed, floating memory that almost always is going to do you well. Unyielding Wraithguard. So this is a taunt. On death, you return it to your from grave to field, it becomes ephemeral. So basically, taunt. Oh, I died. Taunt. That's what it boils down to. I think for like generic like splash packages, you can get away with playing Wraithguard. I like the idea of it, but I don't really care about this, right? Like if I'm playing this for value, it's not giving me value. I don't want to have to trash this because, oh, I don't have anything better to trash necessarily. Like I would rather play this, you know, over the likes of Stalwart Shieldmate, because Shieldmate's floating memory, which is nice. And that's why you play Shieldmate. This is cool because I can play it for taunt and then they get rid of it. And then, oh, hey, it's back again. It's like that Simpsons meme. So I like it a lot. I think it's B tier. I like that it can come back on death. I think if you were playing like a Spectre oriented deck, then you play 4 of it because it feeds right into your strat and it makes everything else better. Since it comes back, it's ephemeral, and then it feeds into Blighted Jewel, making it a 1/2, or the, what is it? Lingering Banshee that you can now activate because it costs 3. So we also have this, what is it here? Veiled Oracle, which becomes ephemeral on enter, and then you glimpse 3. It's a 1/3. Okay. I think glimpsing 3 can be nice. It can let you set up your Raeleigh Abyss plays. The only thing is that this doesn't have ephemerate, so you're either like playing this for 3 and then you would have to play Raeleigh Abyss, or you would trash this off of Raeleigh Abyss and then Incinerated Templar can bring this out. I think because of the glimpse, I mean, you know, it's in the same boat as Lingering Banshee for me, but it has an effect. So I would say they can trade spots between Lingering Banshee and Veiled Oracle. I think that's where it's at. And then the last card we have Vengeful Paramour. I think it's an A tier card because, yeah, it's as a spell. If it's ephemeral, yeah, actually, okay, as a spell if it's ephemeral. Take it back. That's a B tier card. If it was not as a spell, or sorry, let me rephrase. If it was not as ephemeral, if it just dealt 2 damage, obviously that would be cracked. But I think it's rightfully balanced as a spell. If it's ephemeral, deal 2 damage to target champion, and then swing for 2. That's 4 damage. So you can play this, then you can cremate it, draw 2, and then you can ephemerate it, or you can bring this out off of Templar. So getting that damage is really good. Also remember that all effects in this game, unless they say otherwise, activate at fast speed. If you are able to put your opponent in kill range on their turn, or let's say they're taking damage for some reason, like they have something that deals them damage, you have enough cards in hand, you can ephemerate this from trash, just like some of these other cards, which is why I like the ephemerate ability. It's also why I don't care for something like Lingering Banshee, because like, oh cool, I could put this 2/3 on the field. What do I care about that? But something like Paramour, where I can just say, all right, cool, I'll pay 4, bring this on field, enter stack, it's not dealt with, I'm gonna deal you 2 damage, can be really good. Sunken Battle Priest, that's why I'm like, if it was banish a card with floating memory from either player's graveyard, all right, now we're talking, right? But then of course now the water decks are getting a buff, and we don't necessarily want to buff the water decks, do we? So let me take a look at this list. Let me see what I'm comfortable. Raeleigh Abyss, Liminal, Incinerated Templar, that, yeah, I'd agree with that for myself. Evercurrent, Lawzer, Undying Dreams, Paramour, Wraithguard, Blighted Jewel. I think Wraithguard. Spell Shield, we've got the Spell Shroud, we've got the Spell Shield, Crossroads Spectre. This is my biggest contention here. Specter and Shackled Thurus. It feels like they should be like right next to each other because they're both advanced element specters. And either they're both together in the same tier. Well, no, I mean, that's what it feels like. They should be both together in the same tier. I want to say, I'm going to go out on a limb and I'm going to say this. I'm going to say Shackle Thurus is actually B tier. It is very offensive and can snowball offensively. Obviously, you wouldn't necessarily want to waste the Undying Dreams on the Shackle Thurus, but if you really wanted to hit them for big damage, you need to reach those numbers. a 6 power Shackle Thurus or 7/8/9 off of Blighted Jewel is no joke. If you're playing an Umbra strat, I think that card gets in like so much better. But I think they sit next to each other at bottom of B. That's my opinion. That's my opinion. If we get some sort of champion, right? That's like, oh, it's basically the Sylvie but for champions, or a Sylvie but for Specters. Then those cards just immediately go up. That's my opinion on those. But that's where I'm at. I'm comfortable with everything else where this is. So that's it for this tier list. I will drop a link to this exact tier list that I made, but also a template so that you can make your own if you want, in the description down below. So make sure to check that out. If you guys like this video, please do drop a like, subscribe so that you know when future videos come out, and drop a comment. What do you guys think? You agree with my choices? What do you disagree with? I can be swayed. You know, obviously I'm a newer player. I'm coming to terms with these cards, learning what they do and what they don't do, but I'm comfortable with where that's at. Anyways, thank you guys for watching, and until I talk to you guys the next time, peace out.